Hello and most welcome to 1387 of the Heidegger series. And we're today filming next to the local church, King Christ Church. It's close to Heden for you who know Gothenburg. And today I will go through an article made by one of the friends to the quantum circle in Gothenburg, Emrên. There will be a link to this article in the description of the video. The name is Cat Retrocausality and Emotion, 1387. I will start with the abstract, and for you who get frustrated with this rather technical text, extremely I would say, there will be coming lectures that I would use a new tool for understanding these rather cumbersome and complicated relations. Well, I start with the abstract. The Schrödinger's cat phenomenon is a strange consequence of the superposition of quantum states. The necessity for unobserved quantum systems under certain circumstances to exist simultaneously in several mutually exclusive states. Could be considered as the most shocking discovery of physics during the last 100 years. The analysis of von Neumann and Wigner resulted in the conclusion that human consciousness is causing the collapse of the wave function. And thus forcing the universe to choose among available alternatives. To avoid this conclusion, several other interpretations have been developed like Everett's splitting of the universe, or Bohm's violet veil hypothesis. All of them suffer from new kinds of difficulties. And they all introduce new elements that cannot be verified. In most of the interpretations, the choice of final state also includes a choice of one among several possible histories. So the observation influences the past as well as the future. Very important is my comment here. Last sentence cover a very essence of this argument. This indicates that time might not proceed in any specific direction until an observation is made. Consequently, collapses of wave functions might establish the real arrow of time. Walker has made attempts at using theories of quantum tunneling among synapses in the brain. In order to find the extent to which emotions and wishes are able to influence the outcome of the wave function collapse. The results appear to be an order of magnitude similar to those found in studies in which subjects have tried to tell the outcome of random events. As Wigner pointed out, we never observe more than one out of several possible results of an observation. My cupboard, it is always one. So how does the universe make its choice on which outcome will turn into reality? Are we able to influence the choice? My own personal experience weakly indicates that my emotion in some rare cases have been able to influence the choice. Or could it be that my emotions have been influenced by the future outcome? With very few exceptions, quantum mechanical wave functions have regions of high probability amplitude. But also regions with very low probability amplitudes. the existence of such regions of low probability cause phenomena like alpha decay, in which alpha particles inside the nucleus tunnel through the Coulomb barrier to a low probability state of being free particles. Most of the miracles told in the Bible could be described in terms of states with extremely low but non-zero probabilities chosen by the universe in the right moment. According to the Bible, the extremely low probability may be changed to reality by faith. Hence, by a kind of emotion. If this is a correct interpretation of miracles, there does not appear to be any limit to the ability for emotions to shape the world. That was the end of the abstract. Introduction. The Schrödinger's cat phenomenon is a strange consequence of the superposition of quantum states. The necessity for unobserved quantum systems under certain circumstances to exist simultaneously in several mutually exclusive states could be considered as the most shocking. Discovery of physics during the last 100 years. The analysis of von Neumann and Wigner resulted in the conclusion that human consciousness causes the collapse of the wave function, and thus forces the universe to choose among available alternatives. This conclusion was more or less inevitable from the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, QM. To avoid this conclusion, several other interpretations have been developed, like Emrên's splitting of the universe. Or Bohm's 1952 pilot wave hypothesis. All of them suffer from other kinds of difficulties, and they all introduce new elements that cannot be verified. e.g., the existence of all possible outcomes simultaneously, with all but one unobservable. In most of the interpretations, the choice of final state also includes a choice of one among several possible histories. So the observation influences the past as well as the future. Imaginary time. It is sometimes stated that all observable information in a system is stored in the wave function. Although not exactly correct, it is not far from reality. When quantum mechanics and relativity confront one another, problems appear. In relativity, the speed of light is an absolute limit. While quantum mechanics requires some properties to propagate faster than the speed of light, possibly even at infinite velocity. The Hellman-Feynman theorem bring some hints for understanding wave-particle duality. The theorem states that the energy of a system, e.g. a molecule, has exactly the same value as it would have if the electrons were smeared out according to the probability density of the wave function. My comment, that is very well put, one sentence. And the attraction were purely electrostatic. This would be the case if the very small electrons were moving rapidly between different locations in a more or less irregular way. To do so, the electron would have to move faster than the speed of light. As some electronic states have very short lifetimes. Alternatively, all the distributed charge would have to move instantaneously to one location at a wave function collapse. In a dye molecule like Congo blue, each lambda orbital covers the entire molecule. As well as substantial volume surrounding it. Some 35 billions of angstrom. Even at the speed of light, an electron would not be able to span the orbital during the lifetime of an excited state. In molecules, only stationary states are allowed except for short movements during which the molecule is interacting with a photon field. In the absorption or emission of light. It can be argued that the electrons are moving at infinite speed in order to span the orbital. From one point of view, each electron has to be fully present in each location for it to keep properties like charge or mass. According to quantum electrodynamics, the electric field around an electron is established by photons being created and annihilated by a point source. This would lead to infinite electron mass. As the size of the electron appears to be zero. the field itself remains finite due to vacuum polarization. A counterfield caused by virtual photons created by the vacuum. This means that the electron mass grows more slowly as the electron radius tends towards zero. Nevertheless, the mass is divergent, and to avoid that, renormalization is used. Excuse me. In this process, the infinite mass of the excluded vacuum is subtracted from the electron mass. For all this to work in every moment, the entire electron with real and virtual photons has to be present everywhere in the molecular orbital. This could be achieved by the entire electron appearing in one location. Staying there for a short moment and then instantaneously jumping to another location. As mentioned above, this has to take place at superluminal mean speeds. As the orbital is a continuous function, it looks probable that the atom is actually infinite. Just give me a second here. Sorry about the sudden darkness. I will try to make a short summary before continue, and I will make use of constructivism. A constructor theory is one of the inventors is David Deutsch, Dutch. Constructor theory are sort of turning the tables on reality, if you like. This is something we delved into under all the 1300 previous lectures, and that is our projection of what we are observing or perceiving. What we expect, as Emrên writes, will change the outcome. We could call the expectation the construct. And we can see that construct to be a necessary part to take into consideration when looking at reality. This is very close to what we expounded in lecture 1384 about the saccades. There it is shown that we do not necessarily have to put in vision in pre-arranged ideas of what is there. For instance, particles, objects, colors, shapes. The quantum wave is in itself sufficient for perception. The saccade is a quantum wave that contains an infinity of information. Imaginary photons are a necessity in quantum mechanics. These combination of what could be observed as being real and what never happened, that constellation is the pre-perception. The can't, the thing that never happened, the virtual photons has to be present. They are as important as the real photons. In constructor theory, the constructs themselves are active participants, not left out of the understanding. Compare that to Emren's future will influence the past. That's another way of saying the very same thing. The future is our expectation, and our expectation is the future. There's no ready-made, fixed future already out there, as in the Bohmian conception of the pilot wave. Nor in the Everetian many worlds. the many worlds is an unnecessary hypothesis for not considering the expectation, the future, if you like. What never happened plays a very important role in quantum mechanics. I would now go to a more comfortable position. Sorry about that. Constructor theory explains consciousness in the most clearest way possible. It is the future. The expectation. I think here could be practical to think of Henri Bergson's protension, driven by élan vital or being élan vital. If I want to measure something or whatever as a particle, I'm participating. My future, my wish, as Alan Emrên puts it, makes me set up the equipment in order to detect a particle. I get a particle and my construct, my emotion, is an integral part of what is there, observed, existent, if you like. I could have decided to measure a wave. unavoidably my decision is a cause that cannot be ignored. I could have chosen to measure a wave. Remember here the Necker cube. It's absolutely vital to understand that the ambiguity of the Necker cube are always real states, existences. The part of the Necker cube that gets excluded is participatory, is part of the understanding, although it is not a being. When our understanding and outwardness has collapsed to one singular vision. The can't, the never happen of the other side of the Necker cube is most important. And left out in the classical picture. Where reality is seen as a relation of only possible things or existences. A thinking thought that has been going on in the Western culture since antiquity. horror vacui, if you like. The denial of Parmenides, of non-existence. Him claiming that all can be explained starting with existences, real, non-imaginary entities. With that viewpoint, comes the belief that relations of existences will be sufficient for a potentially full understanding of the world. That is an assumption that is proven to be as vacuous as horror vacui itself. It simply is not enough. Not in the microscopic world of quantum mechanics, but neither in the ordinary world, where counterfactuals play an equally important part. I think one could say that counterfactuals' future wishes has been reduced to the dustbin category of consciousness, because consciousness is the dark matter, so to speak, the unknown that helps to make understanding superficially complete. Expectations and pretension solves the problem. Imaginary photons are participatory, although in no way real. Maybe one of the strongest argument against the classical model is that itself cannot coherently tell what's real and what is unreal. This is proven by Gödel, showing that from real things no coherent understanding can come. It will always be randomly incomplete, one-eyed understanding.
I put a pause here before I continue.
Here we have an example of what the classical model tricks us into assuming or perceive. We have here an umbrella stand. It's by itself enough, but someone in a classical mode has added a description, and here it says umbrella stand in Swedish. To adding the word or the concept existence, which demands consciousness, is doing the same thing. It blocks in the end understanding. Leading to unresolvable paradoxes. An almost similar example, not 100%, is the calculation system with credit and debit, where credit is non-money, negative money, being incredibly useful. And when it came in the Middle Ages, it completely revolutionized accounting and helped make the Venetian Empire, together with other bursting civilization spots in northern Italy, like Pisa, Genoa, and much more, flourish. Zero is my third example. Although it being nothing, sometimes only a place taker, like in this case, without the zeros, the non-existences, this cannot have its meaning, although each of these are none and nothing. The invention, or if you like, discovery of zero was incredibly important. The old system did not have zero, and in that system all of physics would have been impossible. There are many examples, and I will in future lectures give more. A stream of ideas is sweeping through my mind. For instance, in the example of Noam Chomsky's universal grammar, the zero or the non-being is our life world, people being together and the environment, but is in his theory existences, syntactical rules are the only allowed pieces that can make up language. Thereby repeating the Gödelian mistake once more. I will finish the paragraph I started with. As mentioned above, this has to take place at superluminal mean speeds. As the orbital is a continuous function, it looks probable that the speed actually is infinite, as seen in ordinary time. And I add a comment, real time. From another point of view, one has the fact that a molecular orbital is a stationary state. This means that the wave function does not change with time. That is not exactly true, as real and imaginary parts of the wave function actually are oscillating or rotating. The changes are synchronized to make the absolute value of the wave function stationary. Summa summarum, it's made up of both real and imaginary parts. Imaginary time is participative. In a non-stationary wave packet, there are two kinds of velocity: group velocity and phase velocity. The phase velocity is always larger than the group velocity. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit tired in the afternoon, especially after nightfall here. Which means that waves are created in the rear end of the wave package and disappear at the front end. This disappearance is caused by destructive interference of waves everywhere except within the packet. The two velocities obey the de Broglie relation. And here is an equation which I will find a good spot to pause. But it's fascinating that this lecture series already at the very start touched on non-existences like zero or non-being, and we pointed already 1,000 episodes to neglecting to understand the value of nothing makes for a shallow understanding of physics. It becomes finished and static and stops, halts with the Gödelian paradox. One can also say more in the approach of Turing, it never comes to a clear picture or an understanding, constantly regurgitating existences with no result. Well, this was a tough text. I say thank you very much for your patience and have a very pleasant afternoon. And believe it or not, still in February, it is completely dark here. Bye bye.